his PowerPoint paper, he talks about, he does the experiment and he shows how it seems to him, based on the experiment, that people, that his students, at least in the experiment, tended to want to draw, almost all of them, draw the indication of timing in a way that supports the way we write unit timing. That was the point of the experiment. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So in his question at the end of his paper, he's asking, wouldn't it be better for us when we're notating dances to be using as a criteria for how we should notate them the way that we think about the movement? Am I correct in what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Actually, the whole experiment was made to make it clear that there might be a difference how we recognize the movement temporarily, and there is a difference between how we notate. So my finding was that the exact timing way of notating the gestures is opposite that how the dancers are thinking of these gestures. And I found that they always conclude how the gesture arrives and not how the gesture is performed. So as if we have a capture in our mind on the end point, that we arrive to a certain direction and then they start another movement and they arrive into another position. So as if, at least for the traditional dancers, there are this kind of frames, when in the cartoons, when there is a frame and then there is a movement, another frame, and then how the cartoon drawers, creating these cartoons, the chief designer just draws only the end point, and then in between there are other, these who are doing these cartoon films, these movies, and they are drawing the in between the movement. So it seems that when a dancer arrives to a certain position, even if it's a short, he or she wants to express that point, that arriving point, and then starts another movement, and then he or she is thinking only where to arrive. And these arrivings are usually meet the music, the meter.
They're usually
the subdivisions of the meter.
They're usually with the meter. Is that what you're saying? They're usually what the meter? I didn't hear what the word.
They usually arrive on this.
Right.
All the same, but they usually have their this inner clock or what. And then when they are moving, they meet this timing usually. So it might be a little bit of difficult or foreign for you, because when it's modern dancing, and I experience with modern dance students that they have a very free timing in themselves. So they do usually they do not like meeting the meter, and then but they have in themselves is the inner drive to express themselves freely. Perhaps they are trained in that way. The traditional dancers are trained to meet the music, so they let them ruled by the music. So this is what Laban was very much against. He was
but I think what you're saying is that you are more emphasizing on the arriving point.
Yes.
But I disagree, because a lot of dance styles that doesn't really, there's like transition or the whole movement sequence are very important. Then therefore the notation need to also serve that purpose of documenting not just from like point 1 to point 2, but how you arrive there. That transition need to be also documented in notation too.
He can see you. So
I've never Skyped before. A lot of my experience with notating modern dance, and as a dancer, you are not worried about exact timing within a long phrase. So you can't use exact timing sometimes within a long phrase. Maybe the final point of the phrase can be exact timing, but within it, you don't think that way. It's not in your mind at all. Then, as a notator, I have to put myself in the mind of either the choreographer or the dancer to know how they're thinking about the movement and the timing. Otherwise, I can't record their thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. So it really depends on what has to be expressed. What is the main point of the expression?
Yeah.
But Ray, when you're saying, I'm actually jumping ahead to another question that you raise later. Well, actually, the next, I think that you're raising in your next number 2. When you're talking about exact timing, I'm going to take a couple of these. Excuse me while I'm eating. It's my lunchtime. I forgot to eat. So, anyway, see, I think something also gets us mixed up, or it's confusing for me in these discussions, is the terminology that we're using. When we say exact timing versus unit timing, because there's the issue of what the notation looks like on the page. That's one thing, right? That's versus what we feel, the way we experience the rhythm. Now, when we use that term exact timing to differentiate it from unit timing, it's not that you just use the term exact timing, so I'm asking you. It's not that the information that we get about timing in the notation, that we get any more information in the symbols that we call exact timing symbols. We get the same information about how long and where the movement occurs. It's not any more specific. It's just that it looks different on the page. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is why these discussions, I think, gets confusing, because people say because of the word exact timing, then they think, oh, unit timing is more general. It's not a more general representation of the timing. It's visually is different, whether it's visually more
Exactly.
in keeping with.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
this is how I think as well. Yeah, absolutely.
That, I think, is a really important issue. But getting back to this first issue, and that is, so maybe Lynne has something to say also about how Janos was talking about how folk dancers intrinsically experience. Is the word intrinsic make sense to you, Janos? The inner sensation, the mindset. When you say mindset, the inner feeling of rhythm. Is that what you're after when you use the word expressive? Or
I don't know how much inner feeling is in the rhythm, because we follow the music. So the music shows us the rhythm, and this is the task to really keep the meter, or just how shall I say it? Be one with the music. So it's a task for these kind of styles, but it's not only traditional dancers, the ballroom dancers. So the ballet dancers want to meet the music all the time. So it is yeah.
Without the music playing, would the person watching see a difference if you use exact timing or general timing?
you mean when you're saying using exact timing?
Yeah, performing.
You mean have someone read the notation?
No.
Just watch the person dancing without music.
Would you see a difference?
Would you see a difference?
But why would you feel a difference if they're saying
No,
the same
what
thing?
Ray is
No.
saying is, would you see it? If you watched
A performer.
a performer
dancer.
without the music,
No score.
no
nothing.
score,
Right?
would you see a difference
Right.
in the performance?
Would you know whether it was the exact timing or unit timing?
But what do you...
No, answer the question.
I'm answering it because I can't understand but it was based on what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Unit timing versus specific timing. The difference is nothing to do
If
with.
I think what
if there
you're
was-
saying, I think what Charlotte is saying is you would not see a difference.
Yes, if there's a
Exactly.
choice between unit timing and exact timing, when you notate this, you're going to make a choice.
Right.
And if you make a choice, it's because you want to show something different. Otherwise, you wouldn't make a choice. So,
No.
no.
No. That's what I'm agreeing.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. When I have a look, for example, at Albrecht notation, I never know it is unit timing or exact timing, because I know that he is the founder of exact timing and he follows the exact timing way of notation. But there are contradictions in his notations, and then you cannot decide that whether what you see is exact or unit timing. So it is not the problem with the movement, it's the problem with the notation.
Right.
So I should recognize from the notation that what the movement was. And it's only the question of convention.